Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. We are here at lunchtime, midweek, so feel free to sort of lunch and learn if you'd like to. The cameras and microphones will be off, so you have time if you'd like to have your lunch while you listen in. That is completely fine. Thank you all again for joining us. We do also have, just while everybody gets joined and gets settled, just a bit of admin. We have the chat function available, so please feel free to use that as we go through. Let us know where you're joining from. Feel free to sort of introduce yourselves to the room, add comments as we go if you'd like as well. We'll also be monitoring that for any questions. So if you have questions as we go through, pop them in the chat, and we've got time at the end to address those. We'll stick to about half an hour, again, just a sort of quick lunch and learn for us all today. But we will also be staying a little bit longer at the end in order to make sure we have time to address any questions. We'll also be recording the session today, so you can come back to it at any point if you need to. We'll be sharing that at the end. And again, if you have any additional questions or any others pop up, then feel free to either stay on with us or pop them in the chat and we will follow up with you as well. And our details will be there on the screen at the end if you want to get back in touch to us to chat more. So I think most of us are here again. People will be joining as we go, but we're just going to jump in and get started so that we have enough time to get through everything that we want to today. So for those of you who don't know me already, my name is Iona. I'm a client partner with Clear Sky. So my background is in sort of AI and analytics, predominantly in sort of commercial teams across different regulated and other industries as well. So predominantly the energy sector, as well as transport, the water sector, and sort of more broadly sustainability as well. So my job is to help businesses to identify opportunities for AI and the technology that they need to bring them sort of measurable ROI and have more impact on the business in terms of kind of growth strategy as well. So very excited to be here and share with you a little bit of the work that we've been doing at Clear Sky with AI and innovation. I'm joined by Jack as well. You'll see on screen, Jack is our head of engineering. So Jack leads our data engineering team and leverages strategic AI adoption across the business to keep Clear Sky at the forefront of the industry. Jack also leads our future labs initiative as well, which we'll go into a bit more detail in today and show you all the exciting stuff that we've been working on. So again, very grateful to have you all with us today. I thought it might be interesting to kick off with a bit of an interesting kind of insight that we got from a survey we did recently. So we surveyed businesses across Scotland and wider across the UK as well to understand a little bit about what they're doing with AI, how they're using it, how they're navigating AI adoption. And the results were not necessarily surprising, but also quite telling. So 96% of businesses are already using AI. About 93% of that usage is happening with free and bundled tools. So we're all using ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini on a daily basis. And while those are great for daily tasks, it might be organizing emails and structuring big lists of emails that we all have to try and sift through every day. They're obviously very valuable and we all use them on a daily basis. But businesses are still quite hesitant to move into kind of deeper operational AI and really implement AI across the business. And there's a lot of challenges of why they're kind of hesitant to do that. The key ones that were drawn out were things like integration into existing workflows and systems, as well as budget, of course, and lack of internal skills. So those are some of the key challenges that we're going to address today. We're going to show you how we're de-risking AI implementation. We'll introduce you to Polaris View, which is our human-in-the-loop AI prototype, which addresses those barriers of integration, of the skills gap head-on as well. So let's jump straight in. So for those of you who don't know us at Clear Sky, very quick introduction to us. So Clear Sky is the tech enabler for mid-sized businesses. We have offices here in Edinburgh, as well as in Glasgow, and a team of about 60 plus who help businesses to remove tech bottlenecks that stifle growth. So what we do is very much centered around supporting mid-sized businesses to grow quickly, to seize that opportunity, the size that they are, to scale quickly and outperform the market. And we do that by providing the skills, the capabilities, and that digital toolkit to accelerate growth and innovation. And we do that using a squads model. So for those of you who don't know the squads model, it's quite unique to us. So what we essentially do is build bespoke squads of experts to provide dedicated resource to augment existing teams and also upskill those teams to deliver with speed and focus with that ready-made, ready-to-go squad. And the solutions that we deliver are across the board, depending on where that business is in the sort of data maturity scale, but also what their priorities are and what their strategy is, again, crucially for growth. So those capabilities can span with anything from digital platforms, apps and platforms to system or data integration, strategic AI adoption, which of course we're focusing on today, as well as data engineering and analytics as well. So we become that tech enablement partner to businesses to help them build strategy, build a tech and digital landscape that allows them to focus on what really matters to grow their business. So hopefully that sets the scene very briefly on sort of what we do at Clear Sky. And alongside this kind of core capability of what we're doing, I mentioned before that the Future Labs initiative as well. So our Future Labs initiative is an internal dedicated space where our experts have the freedom to explore innovative concepts, including, of course, AI. So within the Future Labs, the team have developed core components to Polaris View, which is the focus of the session today. And that's really brought to life an idea born from real problems within the regulated sectors and industries that we work within. So we were identifying where AI can provide the most measurable ROI potential, what the challenges were within those different sectors, and what impact people want to see within their businesses from AI. So there's a core focus for us on understanding how we can reduce the risk of building AI for businesses within these industries. So the team have successfully built our first AI prototype, Polaris View, and that's built the fundamentals that we want to use for AI implementation across those businesses. And Polaris View isn't just sort of another off-the-shelf AI tool. It is, as I say, those fundamental components that are needed to build bespoke AI assistants that support the human decision. So again, crucial when you're looking at AI is that kind of human-centered design and the human in the loop to that decision-making process for using AI to support decision-making. And crucially to that as well is looking at aligning that with business process, with policy, with security. When businesses think about AI implementation and using sort of AI assistants to make critical business decisions, it does come with risks. So there could be a lack of clarity in how an AI tool comes to that decision, and that can lead to mistrust of that AI's recommendation. But of course, what we want is to build confidence in the people within the business to use AI. But similarly, a decision made solely on AI's recommendation without that additional validation or kind of human context could risk financial or reputational losses if that decision is wrong or if there's hallucination, etc. as well. So that's why what we did within Future Labs is look at that fundamental components of transparency, of building in feedback loops, of looking at human-centered design patterns to support that human expert, which is so crucial. So AI for us is about allowing people to do their jobs better and easier. And Future Labs sets our standards for de-risking that AI implementation for our clients with privacy, security, compliance, policy, etc., all aligned and built into that. So going into kind of the context of what we're going to show today with Polaris View, we sort of set the scene in the background a little bit there about us and kind of why we're at this point. I mentioned before, we've kind of been going out to businesses, we've been understanding the problems, and we've built Polaris View with real intent from a detailed understanding of the problems within these businesses that they want to solve and the impact that they want to see from AI if they do implement that across the business. So within some of these regulated sectors, for example, within financial services industry, executives are expecting AI adoption to jump from about 14% to 70% in the next 3 years, and it may well be a lot more than that. And up to 30% productivity gains are expected to come from that. But similar research is also showing that the success of those initiatives and the success of AI within business is dependent on a quite frequently overlooked factor, which is, of course, the people within that business. So the question is no longer, should we be using AI? As we saw from the survey earlier, everybody's using it. But the question is actually, how do we ensure that the experts within that business trust it and are using it in the right way and are confident in how they're using it? So we looked at identifying what some of those problems are, of course, and that is centered around where AI can have the most impact. It could be admin tasks. There's a lot of kind of fragmented, siloed data and information to be using to make decisions. The speed to decision can be a lot slower if it's a lot of a kind of manual process of sifting through all of that. And getting data in the right place to be able to use it properly for decision making. So data management, and it can also be obviously the cost of doing that. So response time in these industries as well is often quite critical. So they want to be able to make confident decisions that we trust and make them quickly in order to have impact on the business, often directly impacting revenue. And although things like automation can help, it can only get us so far. So what we wanted to do today is illustrate an example of how these core components of a human in the loop AI assistant can help with that decision making, make the decisions easier, make them quicker, and make them more accurate so we can be more confident in the decisions that we're coming with. So the specific example that we'll use today will be focused around business loan applications. There are, of course, other examples to that. As I've mentioned before, the fundamentals of Polaris View are those core components to an AI assistant for decision making. And that can be agnostic, so it can be applied to lots of different use cases and lots of different types of decision making. But today we'll use the business loan applications as an example to illustrate that. So in this case, Polaris View will be triaging applications for business loans, summarizing that information that's included in those applications, and directing the human user, the expert, to the information that they need to make key business decisions on those applications, hopefully closing deals faster and having confidence in their decision that they've made for that application. And I'll be handing over to Jack now to show you the most exciting part of Polaris View in action live as well. So Jack, over to you.
Brilliant, thanks Iona. My name's Jack, head of engineering at Clear Sky, as Iona mentioned, and just want to take a moment to thank you again for attending this webinar and taking the time out of your day to see some of the stuff that we've been working on. We're really excited to show you, so let's jump in. So Polaris View is a tool for underwriters. In this business loan scenario, we're demonstrating how Polaris View empowers underwriters to make better, faster, human-led decisions with a combination of AI-centric product design and bespoke agentic workflows. For the purpose of this demo, AI responses have been pre-generated for a number of proposals, and in the real world, this would be proactively triaging as they come in, integrated into established business processes. From the proposals page, we can immediately see Polaris View at work. Each proposal has been triaged ahead of time, providing an underwriter with immediate insight, with a calculated risk profile and a number of identified issues. So let's start underwriting and see how the proposal review process works. Immediately, we're provided with a wealth of information. On the left, we have the guarantor, address, employment, and in the center, we have the proposal overview, as well as affordability, financials, and credit reports. In a typical underwriting process, the underwriter is required to sift through all of this data, using their expertise and lived-in experience to identify and assess issues and anomalies. Conventional software solutions may simplify this process with data extraction, predefined business rules, but this comes with a cost. Rigid logic, maintenance overhead, and a lack of reasoning, leaving them unable to handle the grey areas effectively. With Polaris View, we aim to overcome these hurdles with the AI Underwriting Assistant. And on the right is the AI Assistant panel where the magic happens. By injecting policies and business context into the workflow, we can immediately present a relevant data-backed risk profile. In this scenario, the assistant has flagged several issues, such as low credit score, high credit utilization, late payments, and so on. And at this point, the underwriter may already know what decision they need to make. However, there is a distinct lack of trust. The underwriter needs to ensure that this evaluation is correct, and resorting back to a conventional review process costs time and effort. To remedy this, we make practical use of explainable AI to provide confidence and further insight. First of all, we can see the reasoning, and this overview provides several benefits. It relates back to the company policies and provides mitigation strategies to alleviate some of the issues, while providing overall guidance on how to handle it. But we can go deeper. In the Issues tab, we can see every specific issue that the triage process identified. For example, the high-risk issue tells us what we already know. The credit score is not sufficient. Viewing the details, we can get a more comprehensive answer. Now we can see the exact policy requirement in play here, as well as the figures themselves. And at this point, the underwriters might be happy. And they will continue with this insight and make a decision. But by adding a link directly to the source, we can see exactly where this information resides. And these features empower the underwriter to not only understand the why, but exactly where, so that they can make their own judgment, providing the control and ownership that they need without having to manually trawl through every data source. A key component of any AI-powered solution is the ability to provide feedback, ensure the insights are not only correct, but productive. With a simple thumbs up and thumbs down option, we can identify what works and what doesn't, further empowering the underwriters to lean on their expertise and determine what is useful to them. And while not in this demo, this can be supported with an optional text prompt to provide additional comments, further enriching the feedback. And this system provides a review process that can be used to further optimize the triaging workflow, ensuring continuous improvement with a combination of manual intervention and automated review. While I can't show you in this demo, another option for the underwriter is to simply chat to the assistant. Maybe they want to dig into a specific issue, pose a question unrelated to the issues, or simply understand some of the guidance and insights that they've been shown. This gives the underwriter further control and freedom to better understand the proposal, and for less experienced underwriters, it may prove to be educational, support them in their training and growth. At this point, the underwriter has a full understanding of the issues and the reasoning behind the proposal, and that allows them to make a decision with confidence. Using the triage insights, we pre-fill the decision reasoning and then allow the underwriter to make any necessary changes before moving on to the next proposal. Now, this proposal, a stark contrast from the last. There are no issues. It has a low risk profile, and we can use the same evaluation to provide insights and confidence, such as the reasoning, but we have no issues to review. Once the underwriter is happy and confident, they can make their decision. So what is the impact of Polaris View? As Iona mentioned, it's reducing time to decision. Depending on the use case, business loans, personal loans, mortgages, and so on, proposals may have dozens of long, complex documents and processes. Review and decisioning that typically takes minutes, if not hours, can be reduced to seconds. Less experienced underwriters are informed, they're supported, and they can deliver more value with less training. Meanwhile, experienced underwriters are empowered to make decisions faster, leaning on their lived-in experience to make an impact, not read hundreds of lines of text. I hope you enjoyed this demo. Iona, back to you.
Great, thank you very much, Jack. Perfect. Hopefully that gives you all a good taste of Polaris View and the kind of context that we built that in as well. Just to briefly summarize some of those kind of key points again, as Jack's touched on again there, that the importance of kind of de-risking implementation by having that human-centered design. As Jack went through there, the purpose of Polaris View is really to give the decision maker that assistance to help them build trust, and the fact that we're building in that kind of auditable trail to decision builds that confidence, as well as the feedback loops. And those are the different kind of human-centered design aspects that I find really exciting in these kinds of tools to make them more impactful as we can on the business. When we talk about impact as well, we of course want kind of examples where we can use kind of measurable ROI. We do have another example where we looked at kind of that speed to decision and how crucial that is for a certain industry. And speed to decision for this particular example was incredibly crucial for directly impacting revenue. So they were typically taking about 20 seconds to come to a decision when triaging applications. But the industry standard for them was about 7 seconds, which being taking 20 seconds made them almost invisible. So what we were able to do is take that up to a 5 second decision. And again, the impact that can have, even though a 20 second to 5 second doesn't necessarily seem a massive difference, it's still a matter of seconds. Actually, it can have a huge impact on revenue. So again, by building solutions that are centered around the particular use case for that individual business and centered around the user, it can have a huge impact on the business as well. So yeah, again, thank you, Jack. What we're going to do now is kind of open to the room for questions, just to give you all a bit of time to think about questions and get them all noted down. I'm just going to kind of kick off with one for you, Jack. And that's around kind of a hot topic I'm sure everybody be interested in, around kind of security and safety. You know, what do we do in terms of architecture and how we're building these solutions to ensure that confidence in the security and safety of the data that's being used in Polaris View or the tools that we're building?
Yeah, it's a great point, and yeah, very hot topic, data security in AI, especially with all of the data that goes into LLMs. So what we do as standard is anything that we're doing with LLMs, AI, GPT models, it's through Azure. So Azure is where we typically host infrastructure, databases, and applications all within a secured network. And using the AI Foundry service, we can then serve those models and integrate things like vector databases and other AI-powered functionality without it ever leaving the ecosystem. Ensures the data is not being trained on, ensures that the data access is secure and completely separated from public network, and just provides confidence that the data is secure, effectively.
Great, thank you. We have another question in the chat that is kind of around that theme of confidence. Will has said, this is really impressive, thank you. First, this could be really useful across a whole host of other industries, thinking insurance for brokers, placing clients in the right risk, all the way through to other financial organizations. And his question is, what's the degree of confidence that the right decision has been made? So how does the underwriter know that they've got to the right outcome?
Great question. And I think this relates to two things. One being the human in the loop and why it's so crucial for regulated industries. It's important that the expert in the seat makes the decision. While we could, in theory, automate an end-to-end process that triages and makes a decision, it leaves the business open to a huge amount of risk, especially if something were to go wrong. AI, LLMs are not perfect. The most that we can do is optimize that and then inform the expert to make that decision. In terms of the quality of the results, we've been working quite closely with our internal QA team to devise an LLM testing framework. It's not uncommon for AI powered solutions to have a similar framework, but we work through every single area of the triaging, every point that it's looking at, typical policy related checks, and we run a number of tests to make sure that what we're getting back is accurate. And if it's not, we refine the prompts, refine the context, the data coming in, as well as some of the tools that it uses to process the data. So there's quite a lot of steps in there. Ultimately, it's human in the loop that provides that confidence and de-risks it for real world scenarios.
Great, thank you, Jack. Yeah, that's the kind of human context is such a crucial part, obviously. So another question, another one from Will. So it would be great to map out the impact to organizations implementing this. How much time do organizations currently spend and the degrees of accuracy? How much will this have a positive impact on the business? So he's asked, what are some of the future plans for future labs? What else is coming up?
Oh, great question. Speaking from a technical point of view, there's a lot that we can do with AI as it stands. Further maturing the ecosystem we use internally to build these solutions, as well as understanding how businesses want to use AI and how to best integrate it. I think the biggest thing that we're looking at right now is data readiness and AI maturity. To get to a point where you can have an AI native process or business, what do you need to fuel that? And it all starts with the data, making sure it's structured, that it's available, that it's secure. Only then can you start to think about how to utilize that effectively in an AI solution.
Yeah, I think it's really crucial, that kind of readiness part, because it can often be almost missed because of the excitement of being able to use AI and the impact, again, we know it can have. So even from a kind of new client or commercial standpoint, we'll always start with that kind of readiness assessment stage, and make sure that we're kind of looking at strategy as well, so we know that what we're building aligns. And that kind of links in with the whole sort of bespoke implementation, right? So it's building something that's in line with their policy, in line with kind of the rules for that business. So could you talk a little bit to the kind of context engineering side and how we were kind of building in that specific process and policy of that business, and kind of the rules to decisions, and how that's built into Polaris?
Yeah, of course. So in this example, what we've done is we've more or less created what these business policy documents would look like. So one would be typically around what types of proposals do they allow. It's a codified document structured very similar to what a business would have. And alongside that, there are guidelines. So it's very similar to the training materials and guidance playbooks that they would provide to underwriters. We then feed that in so that they have an understanding of, if they come up against X issue, what do I need to do, reviewing that documentation. And it's difficult to say how much of that is necessary to get the result that you need. It really depends on the business, the problem at hand, as well as the information that's available. But the more that you have, the more that you can use effectively and integrate into the workflows, the better the result's going to be. So it really is a case of reviewing what it is you have, what it is you might be missing, and understanding if the result you're getting is going to be suitable for a real world application.
Mm. And just on that point of kind of results, a big kind of topic obviously in AI is kind of what goes in, the quality of what goes in is the quality of what comes out. So maybe you could talk a bit to the kind of the data from individual, clients or customers or anyone who's kind of wanting to implement AI, and the kind of the data that goes in. How do they ensure that the quality of that data, ensures the quality of what comes out? Because often actually, as you mentioned before, when we look at readiness, the data might not kind of quite be there. So what are the different methods that we can use to kind of make sure we're integrating data in the right way, but also making sure it's the right quality?
I hope you don't mind. I'll just jump in. We've got a great question from Gregor in the chat there, Iona, which is another angle.
Amazing, thank you. Thanks, Gregor. So yeah, so this kind of, I think adds in. So Gregor said, how do you approach the AI models behind the scenes? So have you found one fits all approach that works, or would you expect that some elements of bespoke training of models would be required when applying this to new industries?
Oh, it's a great question. So for the purpose of this demo, we're working with the context that's being injected into the LLMs themselves, which these days have quite large context windows, which makes it quite simple. In a real world scenario, that might be a bit different. So there's a few ways that we would take it. For this example, we try to use a couple of different models, typically GPT models, and what we want to try and do is get the most out of the lighter models as we can, not just for cost efficiency, but also for environmental impact. If we can do more with less, let's do that. We try to employ a lot of different models. Potentially, if you're familiar with GPT models, there are mini, your nano, your very lightweight ones for more utility focused applications. This could be formatting, refactoring, extracting, and then the more comprehensive models for doing that reasoning and that triaging. In terms of where do you go from here, I think for larger industries, you're absolutely right. There may be this aspect of having a custom model, almost sidechaining it onto the primary model so we can get a bit more guidance towards the results that we need with the context we have. But we also maybe be looking at more comprehensive RAG implementations. So retrieval, augmented generation, vector databases, storing information in a way that it's simple or effective to semantically search and extract as it goes. You can also use conventional data sources, SQL databases, for instance. You can have a tool that will then go and create a database for what you need, and we've got examples of that working already. But yeah, as the data grows, as the complexity grows, as does the solution, we just need to make sure that we're making the right decisions and not trying to over-engineer for the application. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Gregor. Great question there. If there's any others I'm missing, please let me know. Let me know, Georgina. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat. On that sort of topic you mentioned there, Jack, I think one part is the kind of importance of sort of adaptability. So when we built obviously Polaris View, we've mentioned kind of a few times that this is like the fundamental components. So maybe you can expand on kind of the importance of that bespoke implementation for different businesses and being able to have something that is adaptive to the different use cases or industries, depending on that data and kind of workflows that they have.
Yeah, of course. So the Polaris View it's an agentic solution. It uses LLMs to perform tasks and generate responses, which are then fed into later stages. The framework for this triaging approach is fairly agnostic. It can be applied to different business cases, contexts, even smaller to larger scenarios. But what's important is each step of that agentic workflow, the tools that are being used, where the data is coming from and how it's stored and how it's interacted with. That's when we start to get into the bespoke level of, okay, well, we have this triaging process, this workflow. We understand what this pipeline is from start to finish. How do we integrate it into your business? How do we get the right data at the right time, perform the right reasoning, especially if it's more industry specific, and then collate that into the final responses that you see in the application. It's a hand-in-hand exercise working with the business. We can't build an AI-powered solution for a business if we don't understand the business and what we're working with. So it really is a collaborative case. I think with off-the-shelf, the problems you've run into are more configuration-based, or you start to kind of hit the boundaries of what is possible with the tool, especially when you come to things like data access and being able to provide that context. It gets difficult. So with bespoke, you kind of get past that. You get something that is unique and specific to your business and your processes, and it gives you a lot more flexibility to do what you want or what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And often actually it's about understanding where to start. And everybody again wants to use AI, but actually how do you look at kind of the strategy and where that can fit in different aspects across the business. We've just passed the sort of half past mark, so I know some are going to have to start dropping off. So I've put our contact details on the screen here. So if there are any other questions, or if you just want to have a chat a bit more, ask a couple more questions, or learn a little bit more about what we're doing with Future Labs, then do feel free to get in touch. We will be following up with the recording of the session as well, so you'll have it there as a resource. Again, thank you very much. Great questions in the chat as well. Really glad to have everyone here and really engaged, and really appreciate your time. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and we will be in touch. And again, hopefully host a couple more of these as we continue to build some more exciting solutions. So we'll let you go. Hope you had a great lunch. Thanks very much, everybody, and hopefully speak again soon.
Thank you, everyone.